All right. And for the pledge, we'll call the meeting order at 9:02. Pledge allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, visible with liberty and justice.
Roll call. You want to start?
Nickel, here.
Bayhan here.
John Goggin.
Ron Thomas here.
Mike Childs is excused. Heidi?
Here.
At this point, we'll have the election of a chairman and a vice chairman, so I'll turn it over to Chelsea and Randy. Oh, yeah. Is it all right for Heidi to join us on the phone?
Yes.
Census?
Yes.
Okay, Heidi, you can join us on the phone. I'll turn it over to
Thank you.
you, Randy, to run the nominations. Do we have any?
Yeah, so the only nomination I received was from Heidi, and it was for Dawn to be the chair. So, Heidi, would you like to put that on record?
Yes, I nominate Dawn to be the chair.
I accept.
Nomination for vice chair?
Heidi. I nominate Heidi as vice chair to continue as vice chair.
Heidi, do you accept?
Yes, I accept.
Physically move?
To move?
No other nominations?
So no other nominations?
We
So
vote on it, or is it just done?
is everybody good? Can we get consensus that Dawn Thomas is now serving as the chair of the Public Safety Committee and that Heidi Youngworth is the vice chair?
Any objections? That's it.
All right, so you guys may push your chairs around. Dawn can begin running the meeting.
Well, that's a little like I'm unprepared. I might need help, John, this meeting.
Sink or swim.
Gotta go my junk. All right.
Congratulations.
Didn't know I had to do it today. I'm gonna apologize for anything I mess up.
Don knew, but he didn't tell you.
I know. I was gonna get a coaching session and that didn't work. Okay.
OJT.
Okay, I guess the next step is we're gonna approve the minutes. September 21st. Or anybody,
Yeah, there's two corrections. One would be under the beach ministerial meeting update, where it said, second to last sentence there, the homeless people was so low, so resources were focused other areas. It's county resources that were focused, is what Sean said. As he tried to access the social services, they have other priorities. And the other was under parking applications. Last sentence, he described how the PSC involvement would be. Actually, what I said was how we could be involved. I don't want to predetermine how we will be involved. That was all I had on those.
okay, so, motion to make the corrected minutes? Yep. Okay, is there any public comment? Oh, move on to that. All right, we're gonna get, Lee County Sheriff, monthly update, and FMB Fire Department. Do either of you have any updates?
Just, Dawn, for the record, I got a call yesterday from Mark, the lieutenant. Captain's out of town. A lieutenant got called to the captain's meeting to replace him. And so the sergeant here, Chris, is here to report for the county, for the sheriff.
I'm Chris Fine. I'm a sergeant with the West District Criminal Investigations Division. Over the last month, there have been no trends affecting the safety of the citizens and vacationers to Fort Myers Beach. Of the incidents that were reported, a couple of arrests were made, and some of which are still under investigation.
What was the nature of the incidents involving arrest? The general nature?
Random stuff, crimes of opportunity, really, but deputies responded quickly, were able to apprehend the suspects, develop probable cause, and make the arrest.
Were they thefts or were they?
Thefts, yeah.
Thefts?
Yes, sir.
The huge presence during the boat races that everybody commented on, someone said that it was a preemptive, or did you feel that you guys made a statement by having so much presence on the island that weekend? Did you
I know the
notice a
sheriff's
difference?
office worked with the town to get proper number of personnel to ensure safety, and there were no reported incidents.
We
from
got
boat
great
races.
feedback on it, so I just didn't know if you had tried something different, or because it was pretty. I thought it was interesting how it was in your face. People saw you out right at the beginning to say that you were there.
It was just proper planning, cohesively between the town and the sheriff's office.
Great.
Move on to the fire department.
Fire department?
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Morning, everybody. Scott Worth for the fire department. Thanks for the opportunity. First, I want to say congratulations to Thomas and thank you to Chairman Goggin for September brought some big changes for the fire department. In September, the board appointed Executive Assistant Chief Ron Martin to be our new fire chief. Chief Martin comes to this role with over 20 years of experience in the fire service, most of that serving the citizens of Fort Myers. For those of you who don't know, Chief Love came to us more than 6 years ago, and he came to us from Colorado. Chief Love's highly respected throughout the country, does a lot of work nationwide on speaking and things like that. With that comes the fact that he's been highly recruited pretty much since the time his family had the opportunity to move closer to home, and they decided to accept that opportunity. He was with us till early December, helping us make that transition. Lowe's brought leadership and vision to the department. Leadership will continue to enhance our service. Congratulate him on his move. For September, the department responded to just shy of 250 emergency responses. That 250 number represents about a 20% increase year over year, 2020 and 2019. We had the typical distribution of calls, 75% of them being medical related, the other 25 related to property in some way. Significant event, we did have, in early September, we did have a fire on South Street, just on the mainland side of the bridge. The crews responded, they found the building well involved when they arrived. They were able to quickly bring the fire under control, save one pet, and had no injuries. So the building itself was with that, I'll take any questions.
Yesterday, the council meeting, they brought up, you guys are starting a strategic planning effort.
Yes, sir.
So there was some discussion about involvement of the council or the public safety committee, so I'm just giving you a heads up.
Okay.
We meet with the council on the 4th of November, a joint meeting, and that'll be added to our list of topics, but I just want to give you a heads up in case you got any input you want to make at the
That's good.
time.
I had the chance
necessarily now.
to talk with the chief on that a little bit, and you know, what we're looking for on our strategic planning committee is somebody from the community who can give the community's perspective on, you know, to the fire department. I volunteer for this board, but if any of you are interested, obviously you're in the mindset of public safety. We'd appreciate your participation. Otherwise, you know, another interested community members.
When is that starting, the strategic plan?
Putting the committee together now, but it'll be starting fairly soon. I don't know. One thing I noticed on the last meeting is there was some conversation about interconnecting fire department with the town. If there's somebody that I can get connected with, in between the meetings, what that looks like. I've had the opportunity to look at our site, look at the town site, and see how we can do some linking together that information that I can work with.
What capacity, Scott, are you?
Well, if there's a perspective of, if somebody is looking to see, the town site is missing relevant fire department information, I spoke with the fire official, and we'll work with the chief and see what we can connect our information with the town. And so if somebody's on the town website and they're looking for public safety education and training, they should link to our site so they can get that.
To basically, fundamentally, to help the citizens. So if a citizen, say, for example, is going to require permits from both the city or the town and the fire department in order to execute their event, there could be information on the town's website that would maybe guide them to contact the fire department about the permits that would be required in that kind of an event.
That's an
So just sort of-
that's an excellent example.
To
Absolutely.
just sort of guide them, so to speak.
Maybe we need to put you with the public information officer and have them really go through their linkage of what they're putting on their website right now with a fine tooth comb and see some things that maybe you're getting calls on that you don't know.
Another suggestion is, at the November meeting, is to prioritize the list of everything that they want us to work on, the council does. One of those, we had talked about short-term rentals and your educational material on inspections and that. So, along with the POI, what I'd like to do is we could add that kind of, public information type stuff to that discussion with the council. Find out who they want, because Roger will be there as well. It'll be town staff, and have them actually say, yes, it's a priority, this is the individual, and give it their blessing so that there's no question about allocating resources.
Okay. Maybe we can talk after the meeting. I'll see what.
Thank you, Scott, and we wish the best to Chief Love, and looking forward to working with Chief Martin. Okay, review of open topics. John, I might have you help me through this first one a little bit. Make sure I don't just breeze through it. Sidewalks on Crescent, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 5th Streets. We're estimating the completion in quarter 2022. Are we still good with that, Randy?
That deadline seems to be somewhat fairly accurate, yeah.
Let's talk about the crosswalks. Expanding the number of crosswalks, the detailed study conducted, rationale for placement, the lighting design. Warning devices, has there been any discussion on what we're working with Lee County on that? They updated anything, or no, is it the city?
I know that we were having initial conversations about crosswalks. I think in the past we didn't have a conversation about curbs. I think that was something we discussed last meeting. But yeah, last meeting, initial phase of contacting.
Here's the thing on the expanding the sidewalks. So all of this is so that the council can say what they want us to work on, what they don't want us to work on, but most importantly, what they hope to get out of us working on it. So there's no understanding as to their objective and goals so that we do the right research. Part of this, for that next meeting, if you can reach out. Heidi, you had the map of where we wanted the additions.
Yes, I do have the map. I will get that and bring that to the meeting.
Okay, and the other was, and you can get this from Chelsea, we went through and came up with a rationale, probably 2 years ago now, of placement of crosswalks, what made sense. Example was across from a retail, so across from a 7-Eleven, where you know you're going to get people crossing back and forth. Lennox was an area, big Bay Beach, where you have a lot of residents crossing. So get that list from Chelsea as to where we thought crosswalks should be, the rationale for it. And the only other thing on the crosswalks was the crosswalk lighting devices.
I think I have that list also.
Okay, good.
I'll check. I'm back in town tomorrow afternoon. I'll get to it, on Monday and the information to Chelsea.
Randy.
Randy.
Randy, okay.
Because with this one here, really, Don, what the objective is just to find out, do they want us to table this until a certain period of time? Do they want us to actively work on it? The whole, and what we presented to the council at that last meeting was the whole purpose of this joint meeting is tell us what you want and why you want it, so that there's no misunderstanding as to the outcome.
A list of things that we want to discuss at that meeting. I want to make sure that. All right, foot of the bridge, FDOT, again, know that we're at the mercy of FDOT right now. We've did our homework, we've done our suggestions. Still in limbo. I mean, they haven't presented anything quite yet at all, have they? Come back. They keep pushing that meeting out. Am I right?
To be between December and February
Okay.
by FDOT. But the issue we have in this one is we have made a recommendation,
Right.
and we haven't heard for the council question things informally, but we had talked about in the past, council have an official town position so that it's not having random residents talking to engineers at a public hearing. It's the town council that is responsible for the safety of the individuals, the flow of traffic, et cetera, that has taken a stand as to what they want that to be. They did, 2 years ago now, agree to the plan with what they call the racetrack. But they, the issue of sidewalks, just to give you the history, Don, is we proposed 0. We gave it to Roger, and at the time Anita was the mayor. And the 3 of us were supposed to go, the chair and the mayor and Roger. And it was decided just Roger and Anita would go. And they came out and said, the engineer said so. And when we questioned what that meant, that was the end of the discussion. And so we want to know if they'll form an official opinion or position on the crosswalks, or if they want to continue to go down the road they're going down.
I would say this.
I have a map also, I believe, of that, of what we chose and what we thought would be the best.
I remember that.
Yeah, they have, the council has the map, they have the rationale behind it, how there's no more retail up in there, and all those reasons. That was given to them at a council meeting several months back. We could try to resurrect that. Actually, I'll do that. I'll try and find the notes from that meeting so that we have that to refresh the memory of the council at the November 4th meeting.
I was gonna say, so this goes into another action item from us on November 4th of, we made a recommendation, are we going to have one voice? They're going to object to FDOT so that we're cohesive and our message across, really heard.
As it relates to us, though, the question is, are we already done our job on this particular topic, and are we finished with this topic? And
Right.
council is going to take the topic forward from this point.
Right, and I think
Forward.
that's something we bring up at the 4th meeting, for sure. Street lighting. This is something we haven't talked about in a while. We have a recommendation,
Well, the council has selected Amber,
amber lighting.
and still don't know the cost, we don't know any of that, but our position was we had a bunch of issues, small issues on there.
Right.
Our main one was that they have one consistent light all year long. If they could get amber to be safe, then it was amber. If it was white, then it was white. We did do that. It's going to be amber year round. But the question we have is, are the other items that we brought up still relevant? We talked about side street lighting. We talked about the mapping of their plan to the county plan for the crosswalks and that. And so the question becomes, as Jim points out, is there anything else we need to do on street lighting, or are they convinced they have all the answers and they're moving forward?
That's what I was just gonna say. I would like to add, though, even though they did, make their recommendation for Amber, and if they're moving forward and they say, we don't need your recommendation anymore for the main, I do want to keep pushing for the side street lighting, because I do think we have issues in park.
Question is, maybe they answered that, is transfer to amber on side streets as well, so that the entire island was amber, or because right now we have white lighting on most of the side streets. In some cases insufficient, in some cases, I don't know.
Well, Randy, aren't they putting amber down on the numbered streets, first, second, third, and down in that? Isn't that what Chelsea was at the meeting for yesterday?
I believe so. I know that they, kind of like you guys mentioned, want to keep it consistent as well, but I'll have to check on that. I know that yesterday they passed, I think it was a contract with FPL to get that done.
As I recall, they're talking about putting some amber lights down on where they're putting the new sidewalks in on Crescent, where there's no street lights now. And so I think Chelsea made a presentation yesterday to the council for amber lights in there. What I can do for you, Dawn, is I'll get you that, we did a report right after we had that joint meeting with Murph, the council, and in there, well, you guys got a copy of it. In there was the issues we had with street lighting. You may want to just review those before the meeting and see how many of those are still relevant to ask the council if they want us to pursue.
Anything else on street lighting? Are we good? Probably safe haven shelters. I'm gonna throw this, we still need the emergency calling equipment at Code Blue. We can get the camera, we know that. Where are we at with that, with the Code Blue?
I think with the Code Blue, I want to say John sent over the information to council, and from then on, it was up to them to decide whether
Never
or not.
got added to the budget. And so the question is, are they going to add it? Are they not? They didn't, there was no answer on that. The cameras, the reason I had cameras written here, and we'll talk about it a little later, is they funded $25,000 for leasing cameras. So hold that to there, but you're right. We also asked for a camera. So the question will be, are they going to use one of their lease cameras there, or are they not going to have one? And this is where Scott and Chris might want to weigh in when the time comes. We talked about, I know I talked to Scott about this at one time, having a camera that was visible to you when you were responding, that it would help size up the situation. I think I had the same conversation with Tim, that if when you're responding to an incident at one of the shelters, if you can have visibility, or your dispatch can have visibility to the scene, what's going on, and can convey that to you, that would be beneficial as you're responding to set up. So that's why we asked for the cameras to be there. The other thing on the safe haven shelters, there is a list that Chelsea would have, unless Heidi's got this too. But we had a list of, I think it was 10 shelters we recommended putting up, and the locations. The Bay Street was going to be the prototype. That's where we were going to put all the components in. And then we were going to talk about going out and doing additional shelters. This first came up when Anita was mayor, so that'll give you an idea how long ago this has been approved. At that time, a joint meeting with the council, Anita actually said, put money in the budget to fund these shelters, even if the county doesn't pay for them fully. And none of that happened either. So the question really is becoming here, we have one that's not complete. Will they complete it? And after that, are they going to look to put these shelters up on the island? The idea was within a mile, the way they were placed, within 1 mile of where you were, you would actually, a half mile, you would actually have access to a safe haven shelter if you had a medical emergency or you felt your safety was at risk. So the question is, are they going to expand? Are they going to finish up what we started in the prototype, and are they going to expand them?
Our joint meeting.
Actually, all these are the topics
I'm
of the
just
joint
gonna say,
meeting.
it's all, the whole thing, it's a common thread here.
This is what was given to them as the agenda for that meeting.
Right. And I do feel like, and I'll just say this, I feel like a little bit it's Groundhog Day, and if we could, nice to have something that we could just say, we're working on, it's a deadline, we're getting it done. If it has extends out a little bit, but this continual of, I don't know where it's at, I'd like to hopefully get an end to that we have some finality to some of these things. All right, bicycle bells and lights. We do have a finality on that. We've got those ordered. Anything going on with the Bike Safety Rodeo Day? That's something that we should be working with the fire department, county sheriff. I don't know if we've talked about this with you all, or if you've heard about it, or if there's something that we can do with the town, that we could set something up and get something on the books and be done.
So background again, it was just approved in this year's budget.
Correct.
So it's now up to the chair to find someone to run it, coordinate it, and get it off the ground. But they do have the funding to buy the lights and the
We do have the lights, I know that. Well, so maybe this is something what I will, I don't know if I bring it up now, or do I set up a meeting offsite? And get the lay of the land here, but,
I would just try to coordinate with the sheriff's office, try to get a contact so we can schedule
I'll
an
grab you
event.
two afterwards and we'll talk about something, because I'd also like to bring in the school and go from there.
Other issue here that's on that list is the enforcement and that whole subject matter of enforcing the law. Again, do they want us to, are we done? We've given them our opinion, they should, or is it something we need to do?
Add that to the list, and then also, I will bring that also up with our separate meeting with Lee County Sheriff and about enforcing it. Can the town mandate lights on bikes? That does the rental company's opinion that they sense most runners back to Sunset from the town's attorney. Florida's bicycle law requires the following lighting on any bicycle operated between sunset and sunrise. A lamp on the front of the bicycle that can be seen from 500 feet away, a lamp on the rear of the bicycle. This lamp must be projected red light from 600 feet away, a red reflector on the rear of the bike, and additional lighting is permitted. Okay, so basically the problem here is the enforcement of the bicycle law is from the county sheriff. This is something that I think, I'll let you talk, is it something that is just, don't have manpower to enforce this throughout the island day in and day out? Okay.
The other issue that didn't get addressed by the town attorney is lights, clear, and we've known all along that the sunset, the sunrise, that they have to have the lights. That's been clear. The question was, they want to mandate that the rental companies put them on for that. But the other issue is the one that doesn't have that. It's a 24-hour a day. You are required to have audible devices, or at least that's our understanding, on a bicycle, if that's the case, we know that most of the rental companies or resorts don't have any audible devices, so it's not a question of does the law require it. The law does require it. The question is, do they want to require the rental companies to actually install those? Can they, the question of the attorney is, for audible devices, can they require that the rental companies and the resorts that give out the bikes put those audible devices on those bicycles? The argument on the lights was, and this is something that Tom went round on for a few months with the rental companies way back in the beginning, there is no requirement that they have a light if the bikes are not operated between sundown and sunup. And the rental company said, we do not rent bikes between sundown and sunup, so therefore we're not required to put them on. On the other hand, audible devices are required all the time, so if they don't have those bikes are out of compliance, and what's the town want to do about it? Make sense?
Yeah, completely. I'm thinking in my head, this is something I guess we bring up at the joint meeting to say, are they going to enforce it and how are they going to do it? And if they don't want to enforce it and don't want to come up with a mandate,
It's their call.
Yeah. Okay. Bicycle restriction in high-density pedestrian areas. Should riding be restricted beyond the Times Square location boundary? Reconfirm legal authority to restrict and propose language. If limitations should be set, the town provide bike racks at entry points.
We did get an opinion from the town attorney once before that the council does have the legal authority, so we'd want him to dust that off if the council wants to extend the no ride zone.
I'd like to propose, since all the construction that is going down in Times Square, especially if they're going to start renovating Times Square, we need to push for time for the town council to come up with a plan to make it clear for people who are here with bikes where you can, where you can't ride, where the markings are, and get it done and put it as part of the layout, which goes hand in hand with the sidewalk markings, to get it done. And that's our recommendation. I mean, it is all about safety, and it is a little it's very congested at Times Square with anybody on a bike, riding or walking it. I'd like to make that recommendation, that it's something we just push harder when we meet with them. I agree. And with the bicycle lane markings, we got to work with the county and funding determination for painting and maintenance. We did the north end. It's great. Now, we're just waiting to see if anybody has contacted them? Or
I think Chelsea's been communicating with Lee County to try to get that ball moving. Just kind of wait for the county to prioritize this, I would say. We can move forward with that.
From our perspective, it's like Jim said before, are we done with this? We've made the recommendation, they've agreed with it, and as we told the council a couple of weeks ago, a number of these are things that they agreed to do. They accepted our recommendation, and it's been sitting now for, sidewalk markings have been sitting for over 2 years with no action. So the question, this was part of we communicated to them, is there's a frustration that you recommend something, you accept it, and then 2 years later, it's still not done. So what's the point?
Exactly. I feel like I'm just reading this verbatim. I feel bad, but okay. Homeless community. I'll let somebody else, because I was not at that meeting, talk about that would be great.
So what happened was, homeless, it came up in the survey. It came up as one of the big topics. We talked about it as far as community policing and the value that community policing would bring to dealing with the homeless. We brought it up at the council, recommending that we have this joint meeting, that we bring together the sheriff, the fire department, the county services, the beach ministerial, et cetera, the town council. And the vice mayor was concerned that we'd be stepping on toes of the Beach Ministerial Association. I went and met with them for about an hour and a half. They were very much in favor of that meeting, the joint meeting. As a matter of fact, they sent, and you have a copy, Randy, if you get it out to them, they sent a list of all the services that they provide on the county right now, that all the churches do, in the town. And so what we need next is, one, for them to still say, yes, we should have this meeting. And I know at least 3 members of the council said we should have it. So we just want to reconfirm with them that it's a priority. And then once that's done, then we set up the meeting itself. It would be a special meeting of the Public Safety Committee. We would have the representatives from the various organizations come in, tell us exactly what they're doing on the island, what limitations they have. I know that there was some comments made about the sheriff and trespassing, and in conversations with the captain and lieutenant, there are legal restrictions on what they can and can't do. They can't just haul somebody off for walking down the street. And so it's to get out understanding across all these organizations as to what they offer, how they can coordinate what they offer, if they have gaps in the services, and if there's anything the town council can do to help fill those gaps. That would be the purpose of the special meeting. And it would be a special meeting, not a regular scheduled meeting. That's the way it was set up. That's where that stands.
Basically, what we will be doing is, when we have our joint meeting on the 4th, confirm that we're going to move forward with this and then call a special meeting, or should I be calling it before the,
No, what we need to do is get their approval to do it, and then we have to figure out, you know, who to invite. So it's kind of reaching out to the churches and to, you know, the sheriff, the fire, and the council, and then the county, and find out who should be invited to that meeting, and then just set up the parameters. So we do that at one of our committee meetings, and then we'd set up the special meeting probably in December timeframe, January.
If I remember correctly, in that email, one of the members from the association said they could come to the November 4th meeting as well. You guys could discuss that then.
And I wrote her back and said that, if you're welcome,
Yeah.
but at that meeting, it's really just to establish whether they want us to do it or not, and we'd be setting up an organizational meeting. They did send, and it was a lengthy list. I was surprised at just how many services they offer from all the different churches. I'm going to sign up for a couple myself when I saw some of those things on that. It's interesting stuff to have for the public.
Sanibel crossing aids?
This was, to refresh, this was, we talked about crosswalks, and we were talking about people randomly walking around up in Times Square area, crossing between now an empty vacant lot that's going to soon be an aqua park and the 7-Eleven in that without using crosswalks. And the mayor said that we should look into what Sanibel does. They use blue shirt people to help direct people to the crosswalks. Oh, agreed we'd look into it at his request. The vice chair said she'd do it. Vice chair decided not to look at it at the last meeting. And so the question had become exactly what are they trying to accomplish with this? Before Heidi talks to them, I think what we need to do is mention it in a meeting. You asked us to look into it, but what are you really trying to accomplish here? Because if you think putting people with blue shirts down by Lonnie Kai and you know that area in there and getting people to use the one crosswalk, two crosswalks there is the answer, then we'll look into doing it. But if we need to know exactly what they hope to accomplish.
A whole ball of wax, or a whole can of worms that goes with that too. If you have somebody down by Lonnie Kai and doing crosswalks at the end of the day on a Saturday, not going to be like in Sanibel when they're going to the art fair. It's a little different kind of show, training and.
I do believe that the sheriff would get a lot more business if we started trying to
Yes, he would.
direct some of those people to where they should walk.
Exactly. Bring that up. Parking application. If I remember, this is the electronic parking app that we talked about maybe getting involved with, which we went back and forth as a committee saying, why would we be involved with the application when it has, you know, bidding, but I'll let you give us an update on that.
So I
Randy.
think town council has discussed it after we had our initial discussions, and I think as of now, the parking supervisor is taking the lead on that. I know from discussions I've had with him that he's interested in having sensors installed, and he's looking at different quotes and companies to see if we can get that done, similar to the way Clearwater Beach has done their parking application. And I'm not sure, I've tried to communicate with the parking manager over there. They're playing phone tag at this point, but I'm not sure if private industry is also played in that parking app that they have. But that's the date that I have. Yeah.
Oh, you're right. The question is, do they want us involved,
We'll just let them take.
or
the
is
lead.
this going to be
Yeah,
done
it's
by
all
town
open.
staff? It was, you know, when the committee was first reformed 3+ years ago, we actually had a book like this, and it was all on pedestrian, bicycle, and traffic safety. That was the primary goal, and traffic flow was one of the principles of that. This is designed, you know, the question is, are they doing this for revenue? Are they doing this for traffic flow? You know, what's the objective? And based on that objective, do they want the council, do they want the committee to be involved in any way, including looking at the RFP, not looking at it, helping develop specs? What do they want, if anything at all?
Right now, it's in the information gathering, and if we can look at somebody else who's doing it, working. Safety issue. Neighborhood watch. We've been talking a lot about Neighborhood Watch because it came up in the survey. Some areas have Neighborhood Watch. I know Lee County Sheriff has a wonderful program that they will go and work with each neighborhood if they call in and set up an appointment. So I think, I guess I look at this as a Neighborhood Watch. I'd like to work with the County Sheriff and talk to them to see about the Neighborhood Watch program and work with the town and the person and the information and it puts everything out and overload the citizens saying, if you want to get your neighborhood into a Neighborhood Watch, this is the direction you take, this is how you do it, this is how you set up a meeting. And it pretty much says it all. We get the information out to them if they want to put their forces together on their street. Or
This is a service that's offered by the Sheriff's Department. If a citizen, I'd say a neighborhood would want to establish a watch, could they pick up the phone today and call into the Sheriff's office and say, I'd like to do a neighborhood watch? Would the Sheriff's office respond to that? And
I can give
Yes.
you the direct one.
they do a wonderful job. We did it in our neighborhood. They come and speak to you. And
ultimately, what we're talking about here is the city supporting that approach and maybe providing easy access for
Exactly.
people to have that information.
Right. They do a great job. The person comes in, she tells you how, gives you tips, talks to you how you communicate with your neighborhood. She helps you obtain signage for your neighborhood, so you can have the thing saying we're part of the Neighborhood Watch. I think our goal right now is just to provide the liaison between the town and Lee County Sheriff so that they can get the information out to people and put on the website.
Do you have a Neighborhood Watch app where neighborhood watches can talk to each other? I've seen that in other communities where you have.
Stuff like next door, which is outside of.
Right.
And again, it's a great idea. The idea of the November 4th is to find out what the council wants us to work on and what they will support.
FMB Fire Department, linking the fire department educational programs and training to the short-term rental registration for units which do not mandate inspections.
So when we were first doing the collection, we were meeting with the sheriff and the fire department, going through the monthly reports. Chelsea and I met with Scott, and as we were going through looking at that, one of the things that came up, Scott was talking about the vast amount of educational material they have available through the fire department. He talked about short-term rentals, inspections, fire inspections, and I believe it was 3 units and above, but you can correct me on that, Scott, that are mandated that the fire department inspect those on a regular basis. But under that, there was no mandate, so that if I wanted to rent my house out, there was no mandate on how to inspect it to make sure it's safe, et cetera. Yeah, we know we have a short-term rental registration process that now has gone up, I believe, over 2,500, if I understood Bill correctly at that meeting. And now we have $300 registration fee for that. The idea was to use some of that money to build a program that links short-term rental registrations, the number of units, and if it's under 3 units, then provide to them either as a mandate or as an option the training material on how to inspect their facilities to ensure that they're safe, fire safe, et cetera. And so, and that was one example, but we may find as we start looking at other education material that both the sheriff and the fire department has, that we may have registration programs or logs here that actually help us identify those who should get that kind of training, and then build the programs to link that. So it'd be match those with short-term rentals, 2 units or less. Either send them the information, the links to the fire department's training material, make it a mandatory that they take that as part of that, part of the registration process, so we have a safe environment. But that's what the idea behind this is.
The topic. All right, cameras. 25,000 was allocated to lease cameras to be accessible by Lee County Sheriff. what is the scope of the Public Safety Committee involvement in determining the location, monitoring, video retention? I think we discussed a little bit of this earlier. Are we gonna put any of the cameras, or at least one in our, I always, name of it, God, I feel horrible. On the,
So yesterday they
Bay
had,
Street, whatever. And, if there's anything else we're supposed to be doing on this, or they are taking over the entire,
they had a presentation yesterday by one of the vendors. I'm not sure what their objective was, because he was talking about license plate readers and stolen cars and shot finders, and I didn't realize we were that kind of neighborhood anymore. I mean, I remember when I was in the city working with New York City, there was a lot of shot finders, and we worried about that. But when we do bring this up, the question is, do they want us involved in any way? These are some of the things we could, help look into. My question for them is, what's their objective in putting these cameras up there? I understand the sheriff has access. It's great for follow-up, but what is the objective so we can look at locations for most appropriate placement?
There's really two kinds of cameras, I think, from a public safety view. Cameras that the public can access, so they can kind of get an idea of traffic at the bridge, traffic coming on the bridge. Right now, that's pretty blind. We have a couple of cameras down at Newton Park, and then we have the camera here at the Gov Center. And if you want to try to get an idea of what traffic looks like up around the curve and over the bridge, I have no idea. I think a lot of people look at that sometimes before they jump in the car and go somewhere, or they just give them an idea of how long it's going to take. I think there's two kinds of cameras, the kind that the sheriff's department would lease to us, that would be part of your system, your surveillance system, to help with public safety from the sheriff's perspective, and the kind that the public could access that would allow the public to take a look at traffic conditions. I don't know if, again, what involvement would this committee have. I think we should probably look at both kinds of cameras. That's just my opinion.
I think the $25,000 wouldn't be for the type that we can see traffic or monitor traffic.
I kind of assumed that when I saw the dollar amount. This must have been a number that they worked out with the sheriff's office, and I don't know how many cameras that they could lease.
But actually, there's a private vendor. There's two private vendors that the county sheriff works with.
Okay.
And these vendors would come in and install these cameras. The number, I don't know if the number was defined, but they would be cameras that the sheriff would have access to at their command center, just as they do other cameras around, that they could use to identify, post after an incident occurs, help identify. It does have some tracking capabilities in there. Like I said, they could say, there's an image of a black Chevy that was reported in an incident, and they can use that in their tracking. It seemed to be more for follow-up or, investigation than it wasn't for citizen access. It wasn't for the council access. It was primarily for use by the sheriff, the way it was described yesterday. But that's my question is, what are the cameras going to be used for? That's, as a citizen, I just want to know what are you doing with the 25 and how you're using it? What do you hope to get out of it? But then the second part is, do they want our involvement in any way on this, as far as input as to how to use them, what we think they'd be beneficial for, or has that already been determined?
A question for Chris. Does the sheriff's office record their cameras right now? Or they just Okay.
Which is part of the discussion, Chris, as to what the retention would be, because of the cost of retention. Exactly. I forgot the name of the company. Flock Security or Safety or something was the one that was here yesterday, and there's one other one that works with the county.
In the case of the cameras that do retain information, is this under the control of the sheriff's office, or is this under the control of the vendor that the sheriff's office contracts with, that you can access through the vendor as opposed to direct access?
the two vendors were recommended to Roger by the county sheriff. So they had discussions with them. That's where they got the names. The question is there any involvement on our part?
Okay, adult video gaming. Susie's
Okay.
very close to this.
Yeah, so I don't want to put
remember-
Susie, I don't want to put Susie on the spot, so I was at the meeting when this came up.
I saw this, yeah.
The question came up about video gaming and the effects of video gaming, what's the impact on the community. Councilmember Adderhold and the vice mayor were concerned about what they had read about video gaming and that. And so at that meeting, they did allow to go forward with part of the request, and they did say that they wanted to look further into video gaming. And at that meeting, Jim said, I think this is something the Public Safety Committee should do some research on to see what the impact of video gaming is. So I added it here because it was mentioned at the council meeting so that we don't lose track of it when we meet with them on the 4th.
Okay. Well, I think that this is something I'd like to bring up with them at our joint meeting to find out what exactly are you asking us to look into. I mean, I think that this could be a rabbit hole to go into and a lot of information. We just need to decide before we put a lot of time and energy in.
That's up to them, so.
Yeah, well, yeah, let them, but I want to what exactly, just not on the effects of the community, that's a pretty broad statement. All right. Appointment of MPO representative.
Okay, so the county has a municipal planning organization, and one of those is safety.
Okay.
And the town has one representative on that committee. It was Tom Gressman. They meet, I believe it's monthly, sometimes less than that. In the past, it was been before Tom, it was Bruce Butcher that was on it. So what we need to do is find somebody that is interested in being the representative for the MPO for the town. Meet one time, they meet once a month at some location downtown. What their purpose is kind of talk about future direction. So this is where you would bring up things like countywide bike lanes and paintings, those, should there be, they had a couple years ago, the discussion was I forgot what they call it now. It's almost like the back bay where you have the kayak trails that go for 100 miles and some. They wanted to do the same thing with bike paths. Should they come through Fort Myers Beach or should they stay off Fort Myers Beach? Those type of things are what they talk about at that meeting. Oh, you just need to find someone that's willing to do that.
Anybody would like to volunteer to be the representative?
You can bring it up next month as well.
Do a little more research, see how much time it takes, and
I'd recommend just reach out to Tom and he can give you a little summary.
got the Tom, get a summary, figure out what's going on, and then we'll see how much time and here. So no decision on that. Public comment. Anything you guys, member items, we've already talked about public comment. You have anything going on?
No, just the next council meeting is after the joint council meeting. It's now set for 11. Originally, it was set for after the M&P, and they now, I see Amy's changed it to 11 o'clock, so November 4th at 11 o'clock, with the agenda basically being going through the list we just went through. We just wanted to go through today to make sure we were all on the same page as to what was still out there.
And I think that time is tentative, just in case the meeting runs long.
Well, yeah, originally it was when they finished, which isn't fair to, I mean, there are business people here that just can't hang around all morning waiting for them to finish a discussion. So I think that's why it's set at 11. So maybe want to just confirm that. I don't want people sitting around from 9 o'clock to 11 waiting to see if they're going to finish their discussions. So if it's at 11, it's at 11.
Is this just a question? Is this a closed-door meeting, or is it, is it? just
No,
we
it's a
sit and
public-
talk, Or is it public record?
It's public record, absolutely. And it'll be chaired by you and the mayor.
Great. I have one item. Someone asked me this the other day, and I thought, that's a good question. Has anybody in the past ever brought up having on the Back Bay, signage on the seawalls of where the canals are? Like what canal it is? Like if a boat goes down, because they said something happened, they had no idea where they were at. It's like a street sign.
Not that I'm aware of. I know that we do have some street dogs, and I'm not sure if we're limited to what we can post on the actual docks, but that's something that I can look into.
I just thought it was an interesting comment. I thought the boat goes down, they said they had a hard time telling someone exactly where they were at, and I said, that's,
The canals have names, or are they associated with the street that they're closest to, or?
I don't know, like ours,
I believe that.
I don't know, and that's what, if it's a canal name or if it just says the name of the street on the one side, on each, like on the, just thinking on the.
What I understand, there's markers on the water that would tell you where you are.
But they didn't have one, the markers are on the water if you have it like on a map in your boat, and they
Okay.
didn't have one. It was a rental, and so she said these people called and they said, we have no idea where we're at, and it was just a interesting question to ask. May not be needed, but I thought I'll ask the question.
Look into that.
So our next meeting is the special meeting with the council on November 4th. And we will go through these questions to find out where we stand and where we need to, what I'd like to do personally is go through all of that and reset our new year and everything, and set up our agenda as to what they want us to proceed with, and we take off some of these items that if they're not gonna go forward, I don't see any purpose of us rehashing them out.
When's our next regularly scheduled meeting?
It is November 16th.
Yeah.
I'll be out of town. So I'd like to be excused if it's November 16th.
Nothing else?
Will we adjourn?
Adjourn.
Meeting, Don.
Okay, I did not know I was gonna be thrown in right away. I'd have done a lot
It
more.
works.
Well, I didn't know. I wasn't gonna be moving the week of the 4th, I'll fly down. So I gotta